Hey, I'm Matt, and yeah, I'm gonna suggest you don't use Grubhub. Placed an order around 4 o'clock, or excuse me, 6 o'clock, around 6:30, for the football game that started at 7. The OU football game started at 7, and the first driver didn't want to get out of the vehicle because it was too cold, and they didn't want to get out of the vehicle and walk into the restaurant and pick up the food, and canceled the order. Contacted the restaurant. They hadn't heard anything from Grubhub. The order went through in the system, and the guy said the food was sitting right there waiting to be picked up. Nobody contacted him about bringing the food out, which the driver said that the restaurant refused to pick the food up, or bring the food out. Watch your shoulder. And that they hadn't even heard that the order had been canceled. So I called Grubhub. Got the runaround. Will you scratch my eyebrow? My right eye? Eyebrow? Oh, come on, scratch hard. You're tickling. Okay. And after getting the runaround, and requesting a supervisor more than once, supervisor, and after being told we were not going to get a refund initially, supervisor issued us a refund, which was over $50 for food. Which, if we would have gone in the restaurant, it would have been between 35 and 40. So, issued us a refund, and then replaced the order. About over an hour after the initial order. Well, then we get a phone call from the driver, saying that they're at our house. They weren't at our house, and then gave us an intersection. Golly, gave us an intersection that did not exist, and my wife said, "No, this is where we live." We were mile and a half, 2 miles from our house, and oh, Ronnie, watch the shoulder. And she said that basically she didn't care that she wasn't at the right place, that we had to come to her and pick up the food, and that we'd given the wrong information to Grubhub, which we'd placed orders with Grubhub before. The information is saved in the system. And then she said that she put in the correct address in Google, and that Google told her she was in the right place, and because of that we had to come. And my wife goes, "I don't care what Google says, I know where I live." And then the lady called my wife stupid, told my wife that she had 5 minutes to come and pick up the food or she was going to throw it away. And when she called my wife stupid, my wife goes, "Okay, no," and called her the B word, and said, "No, you're going to deliver it to our house," and called her the B word. And then the driver threatened my wife and said that she was going to call the police. Called Grubhub, got the runaround, or actually first I called the police because an individual, please, Ronnie, you keep hitting my shoulder. An individual called, threatened my wife, and has my address.
I'm feeling it.
Okay, but it causes me to tighten up every time you touch it. Called the police, filed a report, and then called Grubhub, requested a supervisor. The supervisor first said that it didn't happen, and then told me that they weren't going to replace the order because the restaurant was closed at 9 o'clock at night. It's a bar and grill on Campus Corner. right by the university. They don't, and Saturday night, they don't close at 9. They close at 1. And she says, no, they are closed at 9.
Stop it.
And then told me that it sounded like I was getting hostile. And I go, of course I'm getting hostile. My wife was threatened. And the supervisor hung up on me. And then accidentally misfiled the information with me reporting the threat and the driver not returning it, not delivering our food. Oh, and also said that the drivers are not required to deliver the food to our house. Which I called back, requested corporate information. The customer service refused to give me any corporate information. I asked for his information, and he gave me his name, and I asked for his employee identification number. And first he said no, and then he gave it to me, and I repeated it back to him, and then said his employee identification number several times after that. And then at the end, when I was like, fine, because he said only a supervisor could give me corporate information. I said, okay, let me get this straight, or let me make sure I have this right. I gave him his name back and asked him if I was pronouncing it right. He said yes. And then I intentionally repeated the number he gave back to me wrong. And he said, yes, that is my employee identification number. And then I called him out on it. Because I said, no, I just intentionally gave you a wrong number. And then he goes, oh, well, it was my mistake. And I go, okay, so what's your employee identification number? And he gave me a different number than what he initially gave me. But the last supervisor I talked to offered to have us place a third order, and he would completely refund that. And I'm like, no, not after I just had 2 drivers. One of them who didn't want to get out because it was too cold. Didn't want to walk into the restaurant to pick up the food because it was too cold. And then another driver who refused to come within 1.5 miles or 2 miles of my house to an intersection that doesn't exist, and then threatened my wife. No. Ronnie, stop. You're hitting my shoulder. So, yeah, not too happy with Grubhub. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I suggest not using Grubhub. Okay?